Yeah, can you hear me? Good morning.
Yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. I can hear you
Okay.
loud and clear.
Okay, good.
Yes,
Mr. Talukdar, we have not met, but very nice to see you over here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I can see you very right in short pics. And welcome to also good morning to Mr. Ronghang.
sir. Very good morning, sir. My apologies, sir. This gentleman was hosting, so suddenly he asked me, and nevertheless, sir. So it's very pleased to see you. And Professor Dole, thank you so much. And you are being so far distant, but you are blessing us in this program. So thank you so much. So probably our participants are joining since so we are a little bit delayed, maybe around 1 minute from now. So I think we can start our session. So please welcome Professor Dole and Mr. Talukdar. Thank you so much, and Ms. Borwal. So thank you so much for joining, and all the participants who are here today. We are very, very, very much blessed and honored, that we all are together. And sir, thank you, Mridal sir, for sparing your time with our people here, our student, and also some of the self-help group participants are here, and the participants are throughout the northeastern states. So your experiences would definitely will be very much motivating and very much encouraging. So am I request the team to be ready? If all are ready, so can I request Nilakshi to step forward?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Nilakshi. Thank you. So Nilakshi, so it's, you have to introduce our speaker of the day today, as well as
Yes, sir.
our mentor, our director of this entire session.
Yes, sir. Good
And then
morning,
accordingly
sir.
we can start this session. Yes, please.
A very warm good morning to one and all present here. Our honorable guest, Mr. Mrinal Talukdar, sir, respected Dr. Hemanta Doloy, sir, respected coordinator UBA and SVL, Dr. Medelson Ronghang, sir, faculties and students from different colleges, juniors, and all my dear friends. As we all know, today is the first day of our one-week workshop cum seminar, Smart Villages by Intervention and Visible Solutions, jointly organized by Smart Village Lab, Local Chapter, Unnat Bharat Abhiyan Unit, Bineshwar Brahma Engineering College and University of Melbourne. So first of all, I would like to welcome you all to today's first session. Hope you all will cooperate. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Mr. Mrinal Talukdar, sir, our speaker for today's seminar. Mr. Mrinal Talukdar, sir, pursued his higher secondary from Cotton College and graduated from Arya Vidyapith College. He began his journalistic career as a sub-editor of the English daily, The Sentinel, in 1989. Later, Mr. Mrinal Talukdar, sir, opted for a degree in post-graduation in mass communication through Indira Gandhi National Open University, IGNOU. In 1992, he moved to the Assam Tribune as a staff reporter. He also got selected in the United News of India UNI News Agency and joined the Guwahati Bureau as principal corresponding. Later, he was elevated to the post of Chief of Bureau Northeast. In 2010, he came back to Guwahati and joined the industry as a TV anchor. Presently, he is working as a senior journalist of the Assam News channel Pratidin Time. He is also a documentary filmmaker with over 20 documentaries to his credit, including In Search of Job, Nobody's Man, and Road of China. 1962 Tejpur won the National Award for Best Investigative Documentary. For Mr. Mrinal Talukdar, sir, has given shape to the Nanda Talukdar Foundation that is considered the treasure house of Assamese literature. The foundation that started in 1996 has now grown into an institution specializing in social audit on the microcredit and rural economy of the corporate and public sector. Thank you, sir. We are blessed that you are here among us, and we are fortunate enough to get bucket full of knowledge from you. Now, I would like to request Mr. Mrinal Talukdar, sir, to further continue the session. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot, everybody. A very beautiful morning, especially in Guwahati. Rain soaked some of the part of Guwahati is underwater. But anyway, it's at least not so hot. It's good. I have been asked to talk about smart village. Anyway, first of all, let me tell you, I'm not from the field of academics, so I don't have any idea or anything about the academic lines of smart village. And also this organization, Smart Village Lab, Smart Village Intervention and Visible Solution. All these things are Greek to me. I'm a journalist. I have met a huge amount of people over the last 30, 32 years in all over the Northeast, and that moved me to village, and I have some hands-on approach of, because I developed 4 model villages between 2014 to 2019, 18. So I developed 4 model villages, and based on the experience of that, I would like to share. Because this smart village, the word, the coinage which came later, because when I entered those villages, I had no idea about this word called smart villages, because I was thinking of moving into working in a village in 2014. And I was scouting because of my advantage of being a journalist. I wanted to work in difficult areas, like basically in terrorist infested areas. And then I was looking for that kind of an area where I can go in and work, where people don't go and people are scared. Because of my advantage in the journalism, at least I know that knowingly no one will kill me. That I know very well. At least from the front, I know if somebody knows me, they will not shoot me. Behind, somebody can do. That is the basic thing. I had that courage to go inside. So I found out 3 villages where I want to work. One was in Sidli, one was in Udalguri, and one was near Boroma. All 3 are in the PTAD areas, because I found that time it was very volatile. NDAP, BLT crisis was going on in full blast. Alpha was manageable, but Boros were not that time. So I wanted to work in the foothills of Bhutan. People don't go there. People are scared, and then the infrastructure is very poor, roads are tank. And I wanted to work in an area where people don't go. Because all the works which I know, the NGOs, they love to go in and around Guwahati. Because that is show of pace. Especially around Mirja, Funapur is a very favorite zone, because not only they can work very closely, easily, and then they can also show the visitors, because it's very easy from the airport. So if you see, most of the interventions are in the Mirza, South Kamrup and Funapur, not in the remote areas. And I also didn't want to go to Upper Assam. Upper Assam, there are already there are some interventions, especially from the oil sector, CSR activities. There are some. If there are 2 zones which do not have much presence, is the entire BDAT and some part of the beyond Gauhapur to Dhemaji area. So Gauhapur to Dhemaji area, logistically, it was not possible for me to handle because of the distance. So I thought of working in this area, border areas from the Udalguri to western side and to Sidli the eastern side. Remember, I had no knowledge about all theoretical, technical things. I'm a journalist. Nano Talukdar Foundation happens to be working mostly in the field of research. My focus area and my expertise in the social history of Assam. And I have been keep on writing on it. My latest book is called The Game called NRC, which published on just about a few days back, before that post-colonial Assam. So mostly my whole thing was Nano Talukdar Foundation, some outreach things. So my knowledge is basic hands-on. So once we had zeroed on to this 3, then I realized, or we did some basic surveys and found out that Bor Kimologuri, which is a village near Baska, Boroma in Baska district, is most suitable for me. 1, it is very close to the Bhutan border. Not very far from its Baganpar. I know if that road used to be very easily used by the terrorists of Alpha and the Boros because of the camps on the other side of the border of Bhutan. And the Sidli area, I found it a little problematic for me because of the distance, because I need to have to have a much more easier access. And Udalguri was always, I was interested in that area. But eventually now, okay, I did a baseline survey of the village, Borkimologuri. Out of the, eventually from the Udalguri and the Boroma, I eventually kept it to Boroma. Boroma, there are two, because there are in militancy militancy is far more there. The village is a non-Boro village. There are no Boro people are there, but it is inside the BTAD. And that is why there are great social tension is there between the Boros and non-Boros. One, there are militancy. Alpha was very much there. And within the vicinity of the Boro, that particular village, Borkimologuri, the Boro domination, the militant domination is there. They had some bad examples also. And I know in Baganpara, NDFB and PLP has a very strong presence. So I spread my tentacles and networks. I let the people know that I am there. Don't disturb me. Do your work. But I am here not for nothing to do with you. But I'm just here to work in the village. And I did a baseline survey and then found out there are 234 families are living there. And their basic problem is the water is absolutely in iron clay water. And secondly, at least 40 to 50%, not 50, 40, 35, 40% of the families are still to open defecation. These are the basic findings, and most of the youngsters have no livelihood. The road from highway to Baganpara is always bad. Now it is much better. It takes me about 1.5 hours to cross 20 kilometers to 25 kilometers to from Merkusi to Borkimologuri. So eventually we decided that we would let us work on 4 different verticals. One is the drinking water, safe drinking water. Second is the total sanitation. Third is alternative power. And fourth is the skill development and employment generation. These are the 4 verticals which we have decided. One is a safe drinking water. Second is a total sanitation. And third is alternative power. And the fourth is a skill development and employment generation. But the basic first target was to the water. We could always find out they have a serious stomach problem in entire village and serious teeth problem because of the iron. If you keep on having iron, you will seriously going to have gastric related problem and huge problem, especially in your belly portion. Now, a way to get the fund? You have the blueprint, you have the baseline survey, you know the focus areas, how to do it. Why should somebody believe me? And I'm a journalist, I know the trained, and this NGO is not also a trained kind of an NGO who has a long track record of doing in CSR. We are more into the social research, microfinance, social audit. I exhausted all options in Assam. All the basic options which you can see or you can find, I've exhausted by applying them, talking to them. Initial response is good, but when they realize that this is a militancy infested area that I'm trying to do, most of the things that this may not be a very good idea because many are scared to even go there fast, and the monitoring may not be very successful. So in that case, what I did is that now I opened up my the horizon and trying to let me see what are CSR possibilities there. Then I moved to Delhi, talked to many people, but then an unlikely response came from Shimla. An organization called HIMCON, which is basically a subsidiary of IIFCL, India Infrastructure Finance Company Limited. They bought the story. Although interestingly, they have no footprints in Assam, but they bought the story. They believe in my story, that this can be possible. Let us work in the militancy infested area. Normal, the corporates which are available in Assam, which have the footprints in Assam, they took a safe option. But the IIFCL, perhaps, there's a man called Rajiv Kumar, he did accept the whole thing. And Anirudh Goswami, my friend, and nowadays a very topmost consultant in a US-based company, he also joined in. Both of us moved pillar to post, and we could persuade IIFCL to come up with a CSR fund, with a very structured CSR fund they come. The first thing we moved is safe water. What is a safe water? How to do it? This is the most eye-catching and cleansing project which we did. We wanted it to go for a RO water plant. What is RO water plant? RO, you all know, is for reverse osmosis. Many of your house has got a water purifier in your kitchen. You get a glass of water from them. It's a mini 5,000 to 10,000, 20,000 rupees down. But this is, we are talking about a plant, RO plant with a 500 liter discharge capacity per hour. Because you need to take care of 234 people. And if since the matter is about water, you cannot stop somebody coming on the way or coming from the nearest village to get some water. You cannot chase them in. Basic need is 234, but nearby there are nearby villages also. Since the water, the area is very badly infested by iron, so we basically went for the safe drinking water. To provide that RO plant, we need to have a storage capacity. From the storage, the boring water will come, the plant will cleanse it and then produce almost a mineral water for the villages. But here is a catch. There are 3 schools there. One is a government school, one is a government girls' school, and one is the village semi-government school. Each of the village school do not have proper drinking water facilities. So we want, and then in between we formed a VDC called Village Development Committee. The VDC decided what to do, how to do, who are the people to be benefited, and where these infrastructure will be built. So they earmark a common village land where this storage capacity, storage tank will be built. So we had to, because the 3 village schools are there, one is about 100 meter, one is about 200 meter, one is about 250 meter to 300 meter. So we could realize that we have to go horizontally a long pipeline, and since the water will travel a long distance and that it has to go with some force, because if it is not a force, then water will not go to the bathrooms and toilets, especially the ladies' toilet, the girls' toilet in the school, and it will not be clean. And remember, in all the villages, if you do not have a good running water girls' toilet, the girls' dropout is very, very high because it is not hygiene. If you do not have running water, the girls especially, they hesitate to come because of their menstruation period, because of the other hygiene. So that is why, to stop the dropout, you have to have a best quality of the bathrooms and toilets for girls specifically. So that's why we wanted to ensure the water. To carry the water, we needed a long pipeline beside that RO. RO is on the ground, that's not a problem, but we have to carry. So we have to raise the platform of the entire storage to about 48 feet. You do not need a 48 feet thing, it's a massive one. You can have a tank at the 12 feet, 14 feet, bring the water down, have the RO. Just to have the water discharge in a higher capacity, we have to raise the storage to 48 feet. That was a very high costly thing. It's still there. In fact, this morning again, I called up the Gampura and he said, everything is fine, Mrinal. And now water storage is done. RO plant is done. It has gone to all the schools, but here is a new addition which we are doing. So remember, anything you give it to the God, anything you build, if it is not owned or sustained, there is no way you can do anything. How to do who will run the RO plant? How to manage it? Who is going to bear the electricity cost? Who is going to do this morning and afternoon disbursement of water? So with the VDC form, we encourage, we trained the VDC, and VDC brought down a rule. What they did, every single family will be getting 25 liters of mineral water from the RO plant. And there is a price. Every liter is 30 paisa. Maybe now it's 50 paisa. That time I encourage them to go for 30 paisa. Remember, you are buying 1 liter at 10 rupees. They are getting the same amount of water at 30 paisa. So now 234, make it 230 and multiplied by even 50 paisa, it is 101,000 rupees a day. So Village Development Committee from the water now started earning about 35 to 40,000 rupees a month. Let's assume not 45, make it 30,000, 35,000. What they do? They hired an unemployed man of the same village to maintain it. He will disperse the water in the morning and afternoon. He will pump up the water. He will release the water, and the villagers will come with the water dispensers. Remember, in a village, Borkhimolaguri, water dispenser is a city thing. You do not get a water dispenser in a village in Assam. That's not needed. Nobody use a water dispenser. But there, what happened within a fortnight, everybody realized the quality of water. Everybody, we did not spend any money, but they have all got their own water dispenser. Initially, they used to carry in bucket, but in 2 weeks' time, they came to Guwahati, came to Nalbari and bring back water dispenser. So one water dispenser is 25 liter. A 25 liter jar, they fill it up. Some people in the morning, some people in the afternoon, some people twice a day, but they pay. Now, that money is gone for three works. One, there is the electricity consumption. RO plan, reverse osmosis plan need electricity. Two, there is an annual maintenance charge, and there are some consumable you need twice a year. So you have to buy them. And then you engage a person at the 4,500 rupees per month who is unemployed, a special man. I think he has some autistic thing. He is given the job who will maintain, clean it, and make everything clean and fair. We installed it in 15. This morning I discussed, I spoke to some of them. It is still going on absolutely fine because the ownership the villagers took it. 1st year I had maintained, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, now 6 years, annual maintenance, electricity, everything is done by them. So they must have, I have not checked, now they must have gone from 30 paisa to 50 paisa per liter water. Even if it is 50 paisa, if you calculate, that is 12 rupees, 50 paisa into 30 days is 155 rupees. You can actually have clean, safe water every month. That's the economics for them. And that saves all the medical expenses related to gastric, stomach pain, tooth blacking, everything is now gone. That is the water. Now comes to the total sanitation. We have a budget of, as for the project, we have a budget of 100 toilets we can construct. Now there are 234 village families, remember, houses. We have a budget because the donors have given us only budget for 100 of them. As I told you, one of the vertical was alternative power. So in alternative power, there are two disciplines. One is a 100 units of home solar unit and 75 street lights, all maintained by solar. First, as I told you, first vertical was safe water, second vertical was total sanitation, and third was the alternative power. From the alternative power, 100 are solar home units, which has got about 2 lights and a fan. Yes, 2 lights and a fan, and 75 street lights and 100 toilets. Now I went to the VDC. See, I have this much. You have to decide who is going to take whom, but ensure that every single person has got something. Those who have the toilets should not get a toilet. Those who can afford an inverter should not have a solar light. But eventually, they decided in such a beautiful way, each of the 234 village household, either they got a toilet, those who did not have, or they got a solar unit, or somebody got a street light in their main gate. So 75 households got street lights, 100 of them got toilets, and 100 of them got solar power. That means in 35, 40, there are duplication, and they were the poorest and decided by the VDC themselves that they should be given this. Now, why we insisted on a street light in front of the house, not in a common place? Because we know there will be a problem. There will be a my experience with solar power is that there's a heavy theft of solar battery powers. Who is going to maintain the street lights? So what we did an affidavit with every single family signed, and that also released in social media that they will have taken place to maintain the solar power fitted in front of their home. Every evening they will switch on, and every morning they will switch off, and it is interconnected with and the battery. One of the unit is in their home. So that way, we could successfully install 75 street lights. But let me tell you, sadly, out of the 75, after 6 years, right now only 40% of them are functioning. But I consider 40% is happy. But there is no other thing to do. Panel is okay. You only have to replace the battery, which is about 1,000 rupees. Now, thing is that 1,000 rupees in 2 families, they're not doing it. But rest, water, RO, toilets, fantastically is all there. Besides that, we have also improved 2 village facilities. One, we have constructed a bus stand. There used to be no bus stand there. People used to come out and wait for the buses. Anyway, buses used to come, that time used to come one in every half an hour or 45 minutes. Nowadays, it's much more easier. So they have to wait a long time in the bus open areas or in some kind of a restaurant. But now there is a bus stand, and also we improved the village field, which is a very large field. We brought in the JCB, requested one of my known contractor to give me the JCB free of cost, and we leveled the field. And we brought, and there are already 2 there are no goal posts. We brought in goal posts, some nets, and since I love playing football, we started having football. The entire football, that football is one thing. Remember, you need a sporting activity to carry on this kind of work, because this work continues for 1.5 hours. You have to have a football team, because football is one game which you share. Unlike badminton, cricket, all contact sports are selfish sports. Cricket, I play cricket, but it's a selfish game. Badminton is full selfish, table tennis. So football is the only game which is sharing, because you have to share the ball. You cannot score all alone. There is a goalkeeper, there is a front, there is a back, there is a side. So you have to share, you have to strategize and go and defeat the opposition. And with the football team, actually you can share the entire ownership and build the team. And and honestly, it's least expensive. You need a ball only, and you didn't need. Some of us play with bare feet. Some of them have boots, but most of us do not have boots. Now, lastly, we brought in some health camps. That was definitely some eye camps, some health camps, some, oh yeah, you forgot about the skill development part. There are 4 streams which we took about the skill. One is computer, one is weaving, with tailoring and beautician. What we did, we brought in the IIT, not IIT, IIE, Indian Institute of Entrepreneurship. I talked to them, can you come over? They said they were very happy. By this time, even when they realized that we are working, even the Indian Army camp, which is a very strong army camp in Tamulpur, they also came in. We want to join. So we have the skill team. I brought in through IIS some skilled people. The school, the village school used to have computers. Therefore, the school children, nobody is there to run. Most of them are not in a good shape. I brought in a computer man, basic, some wiring problem with small few money, all of them repaired. There are about 15 of them. Then the IIE people and the technical people, and we had a series of 3 modules. Each of that, in each module, there are about 15 students, so 45 students were trained, given basic skills of computing. The girls opted for beautician. Since there are no beauticians available coming to that side, the girls were taken to Nalbari. They came in, the 2 and 4 they did. And weaving, we did not have to do anything. We only have to bring in some weaving materials like jacquard or some wheels, which we second-hand we bought from a nearby center and brought it, repaired it, and the villagers are already into the developing thing. All what we did, we only brought in some yarn and made a yarn bank, so that you buy in a very less price, but you have to again return back the money, so that the yarn bank continues. The yarn bank is continuing still now very nicely. Beauticians, at least 2 girls have opened beauty clinics. Computers, I have lost track of these 45 people. Honestly, only thing I don't know one person who is now working in one of the skill development centers in the Bascom. Now, when we were doing this thing came to news media everywhere. We worked between 15 and 16 and end of middle of 16, we are trying to get out of it because we are finishing, 70, 2 years. Then Numaligarh Refinery Limited, they came to know about it, and they came all of a sudden. They had an inspection without informing us. They had an independent inspection and found the model viable for them also. Then they consulted me and took me to Golaghat to say we wanted to develop 3 more villages in our vicinity. That is a completely CSR. One is called Gandhigram, second is called Chaura Bosti, and third is called Natungaon. Gandhigram is absolutely backward, very backward. It's difficult to even believe that in Golaghat, that kind of backward. In Borkhimolaguri was very progressive. Some of them work in the government, but in Gandhigram, there are no schools. Nobody works in any government areas. It's all our villages. Chaura Bosti is a very near to the Numaligarh township and very close to the national highway. A mixed population of tea garden and the plains people. These are smart villagers. And Natungaon is actually a village which was originally where the Numaligarh refinery is situated. It is there. They were plucked out because of the refinery campus was built. They were given land in a slope of a hill, Natungaon, and which is a very sophisticated town. And every single person of that village, there are about 25 or 30 of them, are actually working some way linked to Numaligarh refinery. They are rich. So Gandhigram is very backward. Natungaon is very, very rich, and Chaura Bosti is a mix. So I had a not so very happy experience like Borkhimolaguri in India. In Gandhigram, I had a serious problem in installing it because the villagers are not, they're too backward. And Natungaon, there when I repeated the same model, it's good, but nobody has a time because they have access to much bigger money because the Numaligarh refinery is very dear. But Chaura Bosti, where I found the biggest problem is that typically in Assam, the pressure groups will come, they want this, that. So they thought we are contractors. So I had to fight them. They know my face, but still it was very humiliating and embarrassing experience when somebody will ask cut from us. Come on here. This is the Numaligarh refinery thing. We are constructing at their behest. This is not done. So Chaura Bosti, I had a bitter experience of village development where it's typically all the pressure groups like ASU, they wanted to have a slice of the contract, like suppliers of iron, suppliers of cement. But in Natungaon and Gandhigram, we don't have that problem. But Gandhigram problem remains a sense of ownership. So I am coming to that part is now. With the experience of developing 4 villages, Borkhimolaguri I will rate number 1, number 2 is Natungaon, number 3 is Gandhigram, and 4th is Chaura Bosti. One thing I have realized is that there are 2 major challenges which I would like to highlight. One challenge is the capacity building. Capacity building is 2 kinds of capacity building. One is that before you enter a village to work on a smart village, remember all these things were done as a model village. The concept of smart village came when Mr. Modi came to power. He first mentioned about smart village. Perhaps it was end of 16. By the time we already half of Borkhimolaguri was done, we went to the model village. And that way it became a very smart village. And people were shocked to see this water model of RO, which we replicated very successfully in Gandhigram, although they have a very less amount of money. They are not much educated to run it. Natungaon, they are well off, but Chaura Bosti is doing well. But Natungaon and the Gandhigram, Natungaon is too rich, and Chaura Bosti as the Gandhigram is too poor. That's why these 2 models, I think, is not very successful, even if I thought it was a better place than Borkhimolaguri. Now, why? Because of the capacity building. In both ways, I realized that we should have moved to the village at least 6 months prior to unroll the program. 6 months is needed, if not 6 months, I think you need 3-4 months, more than that actually. 6 months to develop the capacity of the villagers to absorb the infrastructure which are coming in the model is a smart village. If you go land up in Smart Village and unroll the program and give it to them and build a thing and leave it, ask him to operate, they cannot absorb. It is not their thing. So you have to make them hungry. You have to unroll it. Before unrolling the program, you have to have at least 3-4 months of capacity building of things. See, I had an exceptional advantage in the Bork Himolaguri Fast Village because of the progressive mindset of the village development committee. They were hungry. They had the internet. They wanted. They had demand meeting. They worked with everything. I can give you a small example. When I was building construction, I'll come to the second part later. So that thing, I think, is when this laboratory will be working, you have this smart lab, village lab, please consider with the academics, because you are from engineering background. I have nothing to do with engineering nor academics. I'm only suggesting you, before you enroll any smart village, have a 3 months of capacity building of the villagers, especially the women form, because they are going to use it. Remember, there's a genetic difference between men and women. If you ask a man, they will ask for something which is like a street. They will not ask for like easy accessible things, like some kind of like amenities. But if you ask a woman will ask for infrastructure. They will ask for a school. They will ask for a bathroom. They will ask for water. So there's a genetically difference between men and female. So always in the VTC, empower the women. Go for this capacity building so that they can sustain it. See, but remember, you have to one day come out of the village. You have gone there for a particular period of time, maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years. I was there for 2 years. So there is a component within this project of 2 months of winding up and coming out. Because before a withdrawal, you need 2 months for withdrawal and 3 months, 4 months to coming in. So ideally, simply 6 months for capacity and 3 months for withdrawal. When you are withdrawing, you are giving every infrastructure to them. They have to maintain it. Now today, when I'll go to Bork Himolaguri, I'll go as a visitor. I'll go to some people and eat, talk, adda, and come back. Because they are maintaining it. So that is very important, that you have to have a capacity building about entry level and as well as exit point. Now come to the second problem. Second problem is that when you're going to construct 100 toilets, even if it is, remember, 25,000, maybe it is not 30,000, 25,000, it is about a 25 lakh rupees of material construction. 25,000 into 100, yes, it is about 25 lakhs rupees of construction. It's big. Now there is another construction of like RO house. So let's assume there are 35 lakh rupees of construction is there. So now, if you bring skilled labor from outside, the entire money you are paying into the skilled labor going out. So during this entry-level capacity building, try to find out the skilled labor or develop skilled labor, bring skilled labor or enhance some people so that the villagers themselves work in the smart village project so the money remains in the village. It is very, very important. If you do a construction of 30 lakh rupees of work in a village and somebody is supplying cement, somebody is supplying concrete, brick, somebody is supplying stone, somebody is supplying iron, labor is coming outside, the entire 35-40 lakhs money is coming to the village and going away. I want something more. Besides the infrastructure, I also want the money should stay inside the village. In Bork Himolaguri, that happened on its own. One young entrepreneur started supplying us these small things like bees bora, cement, half a truck or 1 truck of sand. By doing so, over a period of 2 years, he became a very good supplier, and today he is a large supplier of the entire vicinity from Merkusi, Bork Himolaguri, Baganpara. He is a dependable person now. With him, there is an ecosystem developed. What? Small suppliers who will bring in the things to him. So there are now because of the model successfully done, about 15 to 20 people are working, they having their own livelihood from there. And it also helped the entire village economy. But I had a bitter experience in the same construction. I wanted said let the villagers construct their own toilets on their own. Idea was that I will bring in one skill machine, other laborers should be the villagers themselves, so the money stays. Not only that, since about, I forgot the amount, of 25,000 or 26,000 per toilet, I wanted to ensure 100% quality. If I am allowed to spend 25,000 on my own backward, I will use the best of the thing. So I wanted that the villagers, the owner of the house, or the one of the family members, or two of the family members, be the unskilled labor of the construction, so that not only you save the money which you are paying to award different labor, but also you are ensuring the best quality of construction. But I divided the 26,000 three part. I think 9,000 first, 9,000 second, and 8,000 I would have given late in third part. People took 9,000, 30 of them, 36 people tried to have, went by this memo that we will construct our own thing. And out of the 36, 29 never constructed the toilet. They did not begin. So that 9,000 is gone. So I had to bring in another 9,000 and then bring in skilled labor, unskilled labor from others outside, and construct those toilets in that 36 houses. So my experiment of giving the money to them and asking them to construct their own toilet in the specific model did not succeed. So that is why I failed in capacity building. I should have done more capacity building, at least they did not. Perhaps man to man. In case of Gandhigram, no, we had to bring in all the skilled laborers and unskilled outside. So I feel pity for that. There also construction is about 20 lakh rupees of construction. At least 10 lakh of money should have been, not 10 lakh, 5 lakh of money should have been in the village. And 5 lakhs of money coming in the village in 1 year would have changed some sort of village economy. I can give you a small example. Like water dispenser. Water dispenser is not a common thing you get in the villages. You get the urban areas. Now, when this RO plan started, when 234 families needed the water dispenser, an ecosystem was developed. Somebody brought in from Guwahati. He started selling it. Somebody needed two. Somebody lost it. Somebody damaged it. So now in Borkimolaguri village and in the Chaurabosi village, there is an ecosystem where you can have a water dispenser from a nearby shop even at the 7 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to go 40 kilometers to the nearby town to bring in a water dispenser. You go at 10 o'clock and come back at 11 o'clock. That's not going to happen. This is my submission. I don't have any theoretical model. I don't have any knowledge about how to go. All my hands-on. I have some good experience, some bitter experience, and that's what I am in front of. And eventually, later people started coining them as a smart villages, the first smart villages. I am also happy for that. But that is, we developed as a model village. And I wanted this kind of, especially the RO model, to be successful more and more. Some people, I think, borrowed the idea. I was told in some of the villages they did it, but unfortunately, that self-sustainable water model is not very popular in Assam, because what I feel is that as a journalist also I have been watching the same thing, and as a working in the field also I have experienced the same thing, is that people of Assam's sense of ownership to the thing is not there. That is why in every village, in the water, in the public health engineering water facility, you will see that the tape will not be there. No one will go and bring the tape and use it because the sense of ownership is not there. All our efforts of doing smart village and model village will not be beneficial or will be not successful unless there is a sense of ownership. And that sense of ownership can be developed by a capacity building program. So I urge Vineshwar Brahma Engineering College, Smart Lab, all the people who are involved with this, take it outside your academic lab. We have done enough of thing in our academic lab, but it's not in the field. Experiment that. When you will unroll a program or you will draw a project, keep a large amount of time for capacity building before and after the project, so that a project remains successful even after 7 to 10 years. A project do not go dead like most within 6 months or 7 months of withdrawal from the project by the NGO or by the government sector. That's what my thing. I'm open to any question for next 5-10 minutes. If you have, I will be thinking, but don't ask me any academic question, because I don't follow any model. Whatever I have learned on the job, I'm going through that. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for wonderful discussion, sir. Talk. You shared a lot, sir. So that was a very good, sir. The 3-month skill development activities should be, started before, we we penetrate to the villages. So participant, you can, unmute yourself and you can ask the question. This is the golden opportunity to interact with the dignitaries and highly decorated, speaker. So, or else you can put your chat. I can read there. Hello, sir. Okay, sir. I do not. Okay. I do not have that login. So I'll ask, sir. I'll ask Hilal to do it, sir. Yeah. Yes. So I didn't see any questions. Participant, if you do not have any question, then we can proceed with the next. Let me scan the chart, sir, with due permission. Okay, no, sir, I didn't see it, any question in large. Okay, sir. So I'll like to ask one question. Your talk of the today deliberation was regarding the CSR, activity or CSR support for the village activity. So may I know, sir, do the organization look forward for some kind of credential before, supporting that grant? Actually, we are just starting. Yes, sir. We are just starting our this startup. Sorry, my apology. This smart village penetration to the villages. Our director, sir, is already here. He's available. He'll be sharing a little bit thought on throwing the light on that. But I would like to understand is that it's CSR funding. The CSR funding, does they look any kind of credential before, giving a project to a setup institution like us? Because we do not have any experience. We are just starting our venture.
See, first of all, there is a bad thing about you.
Yes,
good is that there's one good advantage, one negativity about you.
Sir.
Positivity is that you are a government organization, you are backed by a government organization, so you have the advantage. Negative is that you don't have an experience. So with this lab, you can see right now the post-pandemic CSR is gone.
Okay.
No company has got the money now. What is CSR? CSR is that 2% of the profit of every company has to be plowed back to the society. That is a mandatory law. 2%. If a company earns 200 crores, that means they will be giving you 4 crores of rupees. So now in Assam, there are not many companies. We all go for the CSR, means All India, ONGC. Their footprints are in Upper Assam. They will not come to BTAD area because BTAD, the Bongaigaon BRPL is there. Everybody will go for BRPL. Now, in your case, you have an advantage of an engineering college. So you can tie up with the BRPL or any other vendors or the NSPC, which is very close by in Salakati, or maybe the government itself, the BTR. With that, if you can get some fund and grants. See, getting grants is also a full-fledged discipline itself. After some time, your organization has to be registered under 80ZL, which is an income tax rebate given scheme. You have to maintain the accounts, transparency. Everything is transparent nowadays. So you have to apply under 80ZL. You have to have a lot of compliances. If you maintain the compliances, if you start doing the work, you will bring in some experience. Initially, first couple of things will be very, very difficult for you. But you advantage because you are in engineering college. Your access and my access is vastly different. I'm a private individual. You have a government entity.
Okay, sir.
In that case, with the collaboration with the universities, and probably now you're already in a good route. Your institute, university, and then bring a corporate. And in that way, perhaps you will get some initially small funds and then think of big. You can always diversify. Do not take a lot of things in and make it a small village. And at least your other thing is your human capital. You have a whole bunch of students. These students you have to engage. In that way, you have a very strong. Your thing is not only your money which you need for implementation. You have a large amount of students also. If you can entangle all these things, perhaps you have a better viable project which can be done in later stage. I think it's possible. But at this moment, right now, CSR is a little bit problem. But since BTR is anyway coming, they also want to have their own assertion. They have their own project. After post-election, you have a new administration. In this new administration, probably you can tie up and get some fund and do it. See, nowadays, PPP model is a very good model. Public-private partnership. Government also do not want directly to. Private cannot do it. So in PPP model, with an educational institute and university in front, so this entire structure can be structured and fund can be generated. And beside your educational activity, with the students, which you have a ready-made supply of students in every batch, you can at least go for at least not more than 1 or 2 smart villages in your vicinity.
All right, sir. This is excellent, sir. Thank you, sir. So we know now our capacity, our strengths, sir. Sir, there are some questions, so I'll throw one by one. Before that, I would like to invite Nilakshi to please introduce our director, and so that he can brief the project and the activity in Assam from Australia. So Nilakshi, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. So in a very quick note, I would like to request
thank you, sir, for your valuable time. The one because of whom Smart Village Lab is also open in BBC is our mentor, our guide, respected Dr.
1 minute before, I have seen a question from Mr. Nagarajan. He said all villagers cannot get CSR fund. Very correct. Many panchayats, though highly developed like towns and cities, are treated and booked as a village panchayat. Why not we convert to the town panchayat? Very good questions. I would like to tell Mr. Nagarajan that people don't understand that panchayat itself can take loan. If elected panchayat can behave like a company, or a corporate, or an entity, that you can do lot of things in Kerala. You can go to Kerala and see how panchayat is behaving like a human. Like me, I have a car, I have taken a loan, I have bought a car. The panchayat can also do the same thing. We do not get CSR fund everywhere. So you can generate many other things. So these are, what I narrated is my experience of CSR fund. But that is not possible always. So panchayat can do many other things. And it is very much available in Kerala. Thank you, Mr. Nagarajan. Yes, lady, please go on.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask question, sir, please?
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, I am Navarajan, sir. I am Navarajan from Tamil Nadu, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, in Kerala, the panchayats are very big compared to other states. They are having their own source of income to run the panchayats properly. And the state government is also giving a huge amount of allocation for panchayats, unlike other states, sir. So that only Kerala is getting good name in rural development.
Let me clarify here. You have a very good point. 16 Finance Commission has ensured that the money comes straight to the panchayat account, bypassing the state government and the panchayat commissionerate. The money going to each panchayat is directly proportional to the amount of people in that panchayat. Kerala model is always good because Kerala is a left, or because there is a strong left base and they know how to devalue the power. The problem is devaluation. Dispur, my capital, will not like to have the village stronger. So they will not devalue. That is why the whole thing, what Gandhiji had said during independence is not happening. That is, we have a centralized Delhi, centralized Dispur. Same concept what Kerala is doing can be replicated to every single panchayats of India, because the 16th Finance Commission has given the same mandate. They will release the money. Money goes straight to panchayat account, bypassing all other accounts, so that panchayat can do it. Unfortunately, politically, that is not happening. Again, the problem in BTAD, in BTAD there is no panchayat, because they have their own administration called BTAD. They have there about 30 odd constituencies, and each constituency is some sort of an MLA. So they have a little complicated, but still, what you suggested, panchayat can do many things, generate their own resources. But here, I am talking about smart village, which will be there, which is an intervention from outside, not the panchayat which is doing. What I understand is that smart lab is an intervention from the outside. You're bringing in some technology, some funds, some space, and work, and then enhance the capability. That's what I am. And remember, BTAD is under 6th schedule of the constitution, is a separate zone, a state within a state, which is not there in Tamil Nadu or in Kerala. It's a different structure altogether.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Rajan, for asking a question. So you will have more question after our director, give a brief about the, smart village concept. So Nilakshi, please come forward, and I will
Yes,
request
sir.
all other participants to, keep posting the question. Maybe for 15 to 10 minutes, there will give some more questions, then so that the session can carry on.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your valuable time. The one because of whom Smart Village Lab is also opened in BBC is our mentor, our guide, respected Dr. Hemanta Doloy, sir. I am extremely sorry, sir, due to some inconvenience, I was not able to address you and request you to give the introduction of the program. But nevertheless, I would like to take the privilege in introducing Dr. Hemanta Doloy, sir. He is presently the Associate Professor in Construction Management at University of Melbourne, Australia, and also the Founding Director of Smart Village Lab. He is also the Founding Chair of International Conference on Smart Villages and Rural Development. He had completed his Bachelor of Engineering from Jorhat Engineering College in Civil Engineering Department and Masters of Engineering from Asian Institute of Technology. He had completed his Doctor of Philosophy from University of Sydney in specialization with project management. He completed his graduate certificate in university teaching in educational leadership and administration general from University of Melbourne. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being with us. And thank you for your valuable time that you have given us. Please, may I please request Dr. Hemanta Doloy, sir, to introduce to our today's program to us. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Nilakshi, and thank you, all others. Can I ask you, Medelson, please give me the access to sharing the screen. I wanted to just show one or two things on the screen, then I will speak.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
At the moment, okay, yeah, I'm not getting the access. Okay, you are giving me access now, that's good. All right, just share with me. Okay. Now, very warm welcome to all the participants in this great forum. And what actually has been shared by Mr. Talukdar, I cannot, I cannot agree anymore. He has been prolific, and he has discussed some of the very important grassroots level activities that he has been engaged in. And I would like to quickly share about the background of this work that we have been doing together. And most importantly, Bineshwar Brahma Engineering College, and under the leadership of the principal, as well as our coordinator, Mr. Ronghan. They are a fantastic group of people. They understood the need of the hour immediately, and they started working on this very important idea that has been shared by me as a, in the first place. So what has happened here? I just quickly wanted to give you a little bit of introduction and the background, and then where we are heading to. That is the whole idea. And Mr. Talukdar, please, I hope that I am audible to you. and you please listen to our story so that we can work
Yeah, I
together.
understood
Because
you very
yeah,
nicely.
yeah, we need people like you, and you are like a hero on the ground. And without your, I mean, you have actually got my, hair, grown. I can see the way you have been explaining. It is actually boiling my blood, because I am in, many thousand kilometers away from you, but my heart and soul is in Assam. I am dying for the people of Assam, and I like to really do something in Assam, if not India. So it's very important. First of all, I like to show my gratitude to the government of Assam. The previous government, headed by Torun Gogoi, he was from Jorhat, and I was born and brought up in Jorhat too. So somehow I got connected with Torun Gogoi, and I started negotiating with him, saying that, look, sir, so much crore is already being wasted in the state, not doing anything. Can you spare a few crores for me to develop a real international collaboration with one of the top universities in Australia? University of Melbourne is one of the top universities, and I'm happen to be one of the academics there. And I said I wanted to bring University of Melbourne to the shoulder of Assam, in the context of education, technical education, so that we can develop a collaborative capacity, and then we can teach our Assamese colleague in Assam to see how the rest of the world is doing the technical education, how they are so relevant, and why Assam is lacking so much behind. So in fact, Honorable Chief Minister Assam, Torun Gogoi, he was very, in a way, very wise man at the time, and he said, look, you bring a project, and I'll see what I can do. And finally, I got a project as a collaborative project between the government of Assam and the University of Melbourne, and our nodal institution was Assam Engineering College. So in that particular project, I led the project, and I have done many other things to build the capacity in Assam, especially recognizing the skill shortages in Assam in the construction industry. So in Assam, not only in Assam, whole of India today is still lacking from the state of art construction professionals. Now today, for example, sometimes I go very political, but please don't take me otherwise. I just sometimes talk something very upfront, but sometimes I just mean something educational. Don't take me politically. I just wanted to give you a quick example. China today. Think about China today. Today, India and China are the world's biggest economy. Yet India and China are rivals. They are competing to each other. But think about China today and think about India today in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the mindset, in terms of the capacity that we have. India is nowhere close to China. The reason is that China people cannot cheat. People cannot compromise. Whatever has to be built, it has to be built to the standard, even more than the standard. Today, American infrastructure, Canadian infrastructure, European infrastructure, you think about 1960s, 70s, those developed nations, whatever they built, and today they are the world developed countries, their infrastructure is nowhere close to what the Chinese is developing today. Because what? People are honest to their country. People are developing to the dot, not a single compromise anywhere. But in India today is compromised everywhere. Okay, one road takes 10 years to build, and the road is never built to the specification. One airport, you go to Delhi airport, still the tiles are falling off, still the wires are hanging down, because people like to have some compromise. Maybe people do not have the capacity, perhaps, whatever it is. So I think because of that big problem in India, the construction capacity is not there. I thought, because I work in the construction management program, I was the coordinator of this program for a long time, and I have built a program at the University of Melbourne, which is the top university in the country. Internationally, we are 28. If I have done that for Australia, I could have done something for my own place. Then I brought that expertise and skill with the government of Assam's support to the Assam Engineering College to develop that construction management program for developing the capacity in the state of Assam. I have done what I have I was supposed to do as far as the project is concerned, and my obligation is concerned. But today there is no take on. They cannot take what I have delivered. Unfortunately, very sad story, very sad state of affairs. we do not have even people to accept. You give very good food for those people, they never used to eat that food, they cannot eat. They do not know how to eat the good food. So that is what happening in Assam today. It's very, very difficult to build the capacity unless these people are ready to build the capacity. So you cannot go from the top down. So that is where I am at this moment. So what we thought with our this particular project, because my heart and soul is very close to Assam, I thought I am in a developed world. In Australia, there is no village. I do not have to build any village in Australia, but I can work in this space to be able to build the villages in Assam, in India. Because this particular project has come from the government of Assam, I was able to work in that smart villages as a concept. So over last 3.5 years, I have done lots of R&D work, including that construction management capacity building kind of work with the Assam Engineering College. But let's not talk about all those elements. I want to talk about what the smart village works, smart villages research that we have conducted and what we have found and where we are heading today. So along with many other small components in that particular project, I was very interested to see how we can develop the rural communities in Assam. And that is where I have given the name Smart Villages Lab to be able to work in that space. So I have gone very much on my own direction all the way to Majuli during my 3.5 years of the project time. And I met some people, including the panchayats, and I have identified 37 villages in Majuli. And then as Mr. Talukdar mentioned that you need to have the baseline data. I realized that on 3.5 years back. So I thought before I go and do anything with the village, I need to first work out a research concept, research-based, evidence-based model for developing the rural. Because top-down approach that has been happening over the last 75 years since independence is not quite delivering the results because the money leaks out everywhere. Central fund goes to state fund goes to district fund goes to the panchayat, and the beneficiaries are not getting what they wanted to get. So I thought that the baseline data is very important, and that is where we can start working with the priorities of the people at the grassroots level. And as very rightly Mr. Talukdar said, that women and the men, they talk differently, they think differently. And you would not believe how much I am meaning that. My first page of the survey, I have done 20 pages long survey across 2,500 households. And the very first page of that survey I can show you today is the man versus woman. I said, if you are a man, tell me what is your priority in the village. If you are a woman, you tell me what is the priority of the village. And we have collected that data across 2,500 households across 37 villages over 6 months period. How I collected the data, that's a different story. I have collected data using the online app. I developed the app, I went to the village, I trained the villagers, I collected data by staying in Australia because they have been able to collect the data on my behalf and sending it through the cloud computing, and then we were able to absorb the data on this side. And many of you may have already seen my data structure, which is an online platform that we developed. I shared last time in one of the forums here. I can still share it, but not in this session now. So then after I collected that many data, I was able to find it out that what requires for a village to be developed. And one core principle is that you never start developing the village by giving and superimposing the solutions. Solutions must come from the heart of the people of that particular community. So that means context specific solution is very important. Then when I given the name SMART, many people ask me what is SMART about? But then I had to tell many times that SMART is not about, it's a relative term. SMART is not about digital. And what Mr. Talukdar said, that somebody is getting a drinkable water, or someone, a female community in the school is getting a proper sanitized toilet, is a smart solution for that community, very much context specific. And that is the SMART I mean here. In the context of Assam, that is the smartness. So you give the required solution as per the need and let it work. So that is what it is. So then when I did the research, I'm a researcher, I'm an educationist, and I do not have any fund to build the smart villages. So what then out of this particular project, my chief secretary of the state, he rang me up saying that, look, Hemanta, we have given you this money. We want you to build the smart villages in Assam. I said, I'm not a contractor, sir. I have not got the money from you, to build the, villages in Assam. I have got the money as a collaborative fund that you have honored to give to the University of Melbourne to their corporate account, and that money has given me the leverage to work in this research. I have not got a single cent. Sir, please understand that your money has got a caveat that you have given the money to the University of Melbourne through me as a project, but you did not give me any money to money as a contractor to be able to build the villages there. So I'm not building the villages for you at this point in time, but I am doing the R&D to develop the blueprint that is required, the knowledge that you require to be able to build a village, to be able to build the smart villages in Assam. So finally, that is what basically I have told him. But anyway, so then what I have done by taking that sort of data, by connecting with that many people, we have done quite a lot of R&D, and based on that, I have written 2 books. One book is called Planning, Housing and Infrastructure for Smart Villages. That book was published in London, and I do have that book in my website. The second book I have written is about affordable housing for smart villages, and the third book currently I am writing on is the infrastructure for smart villages. And all the work that Mr. Talukdar mentioned, there are quite a few things that I'm looking at as well. But I am not writing the book based on Assam alone. I'm writing the book with the global scanning of the information. I am actually going, because I'm an international researcher. So I have got access to the data in the world. So I bring all the literature around the world, capture it together, contextualize it together to be able to apply it in a context specific context, which is in Assam in this case. So then the 2 books we have written is all about basically the knowledge base that we created for this particular idea. So now, what is happening here, my project is finished, because every single project has got a particular lifetime, and whatever we have to do it. So I have written our policies for the government of Assam, launched the policies with them, and our policies have been endorsed by the chief minister and finance minister and the education minister in today's government. But nobody has ever looked at what is written in that policy, but they are very happy to come and launch the policies for us. I have written to the government of Assam because it is an obligation. I have given whatever needed to be given into the Assam government, engineering college, Assam Engineering College, in terms of the construction management course we have developed, but they are not interested to develop anything into the future, because that is the nature of our state. So what is going to happen here? So I thought that with all my work, the time has come for me to go to the grassroots levels. So I told the government of Assam, I told the Assam Engineering College as my nodal institution, that guys, don't worry, whatever you are doing it, but let me just do a bit of more work. I will now go to every single college around the state and see who are the takers of this idea, so that they can work on the context specific issues and developing the context specific solutions. So then my very dearest friend, Mr. Ronghan, I have spoken to him in length. He said, look, sir, I am ready, I'll do it. So then based on that, I said, look, Mr. Ronghan, you wait, I'm writing something up. And this is the first documentation that I have written here. You can see, this is what I said: enabling through smart villages workshop, enabling through community, culture, construction and capacity. And I can see, these are all my single thoughts. I just brought these things together, as you can see. So I was thinking, what is smart village? I was defining myself. And then you can see here, and this picture, I think you can see somewhere in their brochure as well. In fact, this picture was developed by me in my first book. As you can see, I have got a reference to this book here, and this picture was developed by me. I said, look, smart villages is all about basically everything: housing, health, education, environment, security, civics, jobs, and income. So what Mr. Talukdar said is no different from this conceptual model. But now, question here is that how this concept can ever be implemented in a village context. So I have actually done some very interesting study recently, and I found that in 1960s, 1970s, during the Western, industrial era, after the Second World War, when the whole world gone into depression, and those developed countries, including America and Europe, and the UK, they have started a quite different way of developing their countries. And then I have done some of this study there, and I found that some of the very interesting ideas were basically doing something with the local context. And that is the reason why you see Mr. Talukdar mentioned about the sports team, the football team. In fact, these ideas also were there at that time, and that is the reason why the developed world today, if you go to every single any regional areas of those countries or of those places, you can see that there's a strong community feelings. There are clubs, there are RSL clubs, there are drinking clubs, pubs, there are local teams. They all bind those people together. It's very interesting. And what Mr. Talukdar said, I highly commend, because you must have read that one as well, and that is what your experience with. But I have picked up those things from my own study as well. So, and these ideas are no different from what you are saying today. I'm going to show you here what I mean by that. You see, my intention is that this we need to, I'm just borrowing some of the ideas from those literature. I thought that we need to develop a village development committee. And as Mr. Talukdar said, and I am giving here an I call as special interest group. So what I said in this documentation here, that a local institution like Bineswar Brahma Engineering College will take a lead, and they will develop an interest group of people. These are the stakeholders, and this group of people are the core group of people very much interested in developing the villages in their vicinity. Then this group of people will take a leading role in terms of organizing these workshops, and these workshops are never meant to be that wide that today we are sitting here. That was my initial thought, that every single workshop will be a very specific village context workshop or village specific workshop. So if I'm looking at village 1, 2, 3, 4 in a particular area, I will try to integrate those people from that particular village to come over and join hands with this core group of people at the institution, and then develop their blueprint of their development. And that is the reason why I said here, the participants should be senior level students from the institution, academic staff, representatives from various villages, office bearers of the local government, officials from local bank, other professionals from the community such as planners, engineers, volunteers, NGOs, teachers from the local school, representatives from the municipality, representatives from the district offices. So we like to get those people very much focused into that particular village that we are trying to develop at this point in time. So for example, we are looking at one single village, as Mr. Talukdar mentioned, 235 household kind of village. And if that village is the one that we want to develop, we like to get the villagers. But every single person cannot come and contribute because they are not educated, they are not visionary enough. We have to get the Gaon, you have to get some of the local representations, plus the people from that village, if they are working somewhere, a banker, a school teacher, a professor, a doctor, you bring those people in, along with the local banks managers, for example. So these people all can come and then look at what the village has got and what the village needs. Based on that, they start working on a 7 days, 10 days, whatever the time is, working on very many different aspects of the village. So I said that they have to first set up the context, what the village is, then they have to do some SWOT analysis, which is the strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. And then I have given some scientific methods here, which I'll explain a bit later. Then I thought that these are the issues, they will identify the issues. They will identify the issues like that: streetscape and beautification, restoration of the place, cultural heritage, education and skill, roads and drainage, agriculture, job creation, safety, health, water, sanitation. These are all very specific to the village itself. So these problems have to be identified within that core group of people from that particular village community. Then we have to develop the action plan. We have to work out the benefit analysis. So after that, then we take the roles and responsibility analysis. And as we are working on a holistic development of a particular village, every single theme will be done by a special interest group. Everybody is not going to work on everywhere. Some people are very expert in the modern agriculture. They will work on the agriculture side. Some people are very good in beautification of the village. they 3 or 4 people or 5 people can work on the beautification side of the village. So these small interest groups, special interest groups will then contribute to the master plan of that particular village. So finally, we'll look at basically everything. Start from who is responsible for what planning, who is going to communicate with who, what are the regulatory obligations, what are the actions planning, what are the resolutions to be taken, and what are the resources required. And then we work on the actual plan of delivery. Because I'm an expert in project management, I'm an expert in construction management, there are scientific principles of delivering the projects. And in India, in Assam, our government sector, they do not understand it. They do not understand it because one bridge takes 7 years. One road takes 15 years. There is no such thing in this world that 15 years you can spend on the capital project. You can't do that unless there's a plan, and that plan tells you that this is profitable. This is doable in 15 years. That doesn't really work like that. So every single capital project has to have a scope, time, cost, risk, quality, procurement, and it has to be delivered within time. That is called our project plan. And I teach the students project planning here, and we practice project planning in Australia, in Melbourne. So our big projects are delivered to the time, to the cost. So in India, people have not learned much about that, especially in the public sector. And Assam, there is no such thing. You know, Jorhat, Guwahati to Dibrugarh, that 4-lane highway has been started long back, and it will take many more decades. No scientific principles have ever qualified that sort of project delivery method. There's no such thing. That only happens in Assam because everybody wants to get the benefits. So anyway, so in this case, I thought that whatever we do for a particular village, it has to have a very specific project delivery plan. And that is what I like to get it done through the participants, because I'll help them understanding the principle and developing that plan and sitting on that plan. Finally, we need to look at basically short-term deliverable, long-term deliverable, and so on. And finally, also archival and storage. We like to actually get that master plan developed for the village and leave it somewhere. Where can you leave it? Either in Gaoburaj house, or in Panchayat office, or in a local school. Could be a general art school, or whatever. So we will give the the archival spot space of that village master plan in that thing, and so that we can continue on all the time. And then I said, then the certificate of completion, of course, whoever comes, we will collaboratively deliver the certificates of completion, and so on. So then I just wanted to give you an example here. What do I mean by that? So in a typical workshop of 7 days, there could be many different sessions of this kind. So and many different people can work in very many different ideas of the particular village, and finally we develop the master plan and we get the design idea. And that master plan and design idea, once it is ready, then of course we can work in terms of the implementation. And some of the people ask Mr. Talukdar, okay, how can you get this CSR funding? CSR funding is only one aspect. Funding can come from anywhere, and I do have the action plan here. So if you have the local banker, he or she can tell you that what are the funds available to borrow from the local bank, and how you can pay. We have to make a business case. Then also, as you mentioned, I do not know much about Indian system because I have been out of the India for last 30 years. But what Mr. Talukdar mentioned, and I also understood, that now Panchayat can get any amount of money directly. And in Panchayat, there is no shortage of money. When I was speaking to the Panchayat in Majuli, they said, sir, you bring the idea, we will make it implement. So that means what they are saying, that in a particular village, if you have got a master plan, you have got 10 different ideas within that master plan, 4 ideas can be directly sublet or outsourced to the Panchayat, because Panchayat people can then get the public fund for those schemes to be implementing in those villages. And 6 out of 10 cannot be done with the public money or any other money. Maybe there will be additional funding options that you have to identify. Maybe CSR will come, maybe philanthropic fund will come, maybe crowdsourcing may be coming. Some people are interested to give the money in a crowdsourcing. And now today I am talking about a big group of Assamese people or Assamese diaspora, which are the people NRIs from northeastern part of India staying outside India. I have got access to the people in America, highly entrepreneur, successful business people who came 40 years back. I am trying to go to those people because I am already part of that network, and I have already initiated that let's develop a Assam Development Fund. Assam Development Fund could be a fund which people may not have seen in their lifetime. Could be trillions of dollars. We can generate to that amount of money because people can give the money, provided we have got a plan. We can do something. Yeah, I was talking to one guy. He is in the US. His name is Dr. Aravind Fukon. He is now 80 years old. He was a bridge engineer. He worked in Alaska for a long time. He went to Canada, all various projects. And he said, I have built so many bridges for America, but I wanted to do something for Assam. He always comes and he wants to actually protect Assam from Brahmaputra. He wants to control the erosion in Brahmaputra, and he wants to bring some scientific solutions to the Brahmaputra River. But he has been trying for last 20 years. And he has never been accepted by the people in Assam, and he is so frustrated. And then he started going to the central ministry saying that, look, guys, can you hear me? I have got a solution. I have got money. I want to do something for Brahmaputra. Can you help me? This guy saying, no, you cannot do anything in Brahmaputra because Brahmaputra is a national river. We have got our national rights. Nobody can touch Brahmaputra. If you wanted to do something, go and do in Kaveri River or Krishna River. He said, I'm an Assamese. I am in America. I'm bringing my heart and soul to do something for Assam. I cannot touch Brahmaputra. They said, no, you can't do that. Anyway, so these are the problems in our system. But this guy, I spoke to him. He said, look, Hemanta, take my money, take whatever I can give, but do something. Then I said, look, sir, don't worry about the structural problems. You cannot fix perhaps the structural problem in Brahmaputra, but can we have the non-structural problems? Can we have many our indigenous trees planted across Brahmaputra River? All the Borgos, all the Bokul Gos, or the Zori Gos, all the big Gos, trees. Can we plant, beautiful rows of trees on both sides of Brahmaputra so that Brahmaputra takes one tree away 1 year, next year, the next tree is going to actually protect it. So these are the non-structural measures that we can work on in Brahmaputra River. But and then he was very excited about it. See, my smart villages, this whole idea is about that local problem. Maybe Brahmaputra River also can be one day controlled with our non-structural measures like this, if people are interested in both sides of the Brahmaputra River. Anyway, so funding is not a problem. Funding will come, but we need the implementable specific solutions for these specific problems, and that is what this smart villages is about. So then you can see here, these are my books, by the way. I want to give you an example here. Look at this picture. This picture is nothing but some of the beautiful trees in the world, and many of you might tell that the first one is maple on the left, and second picture on the top is the cherry blossoms in Japan. In Japan, these trees are there, and they have planted in millions, and they glow, they blossom for 2 weeks in April, just before this spring season. And whole world comes and pour billions of dollars for Japanese tourism industry just to see this cherry blossom, because cherry blossom in Japan is one of the events that they have done it so well. Everybody in this world knows that Japan, if you wanted to go in April, see the cherry blossom, so beautiful. And people come to Japan not for free. People have to buy the hotel, people have to spend their tourist dollar, people have to buy the Japanese food, people have to go to various places, people bring billions. In Assam, we have got so many indigenous beautiful trees. How many gardens we have ever planted in Assam that is worth seeing in a particular season? Our Khewali Phul, our Bokul Phul, it can have aroma from 1 kilometer away. Think about 1 lakh Bokul Phul garden somewhere. It will give you the aroma that nobody has ever got in their lifetime. That is what Assam is about. Khewali Phul, you know the Khewali Phul, I don't know what is the English name, but when it comes, during the Kati Bihu, during that time, Ahin Kati, around that time, the Khewali Phul, beautiful smell. But how many Khewali Phul trees we have ever planted? None. So I thought our smart villages can also have that kind of character as well. So we can actually, whatever is possible, we can have that kind of landscape in our villages. So our villages will be attracting the people from rest of the world, and money is not a problem. Money will come and people will come and homestay and enjoy the beauty in Assam. But we have to somehow make it happen. Yeah. So you can see here, this one on the left hand side, the bottom left is the jacaranda. In Australian streets, you can see this. If you come around springtime, around this time, jacarandas are everywhere. People have planted these natural trees and they give the natural flower, and that becomes an attraction for the rest of the world. But in Assam, we have not done that. Why? Every single village can have this kind of plants if we are looking after it well and we are serious about it. We want to show to the rest of the world. I tell you, money is not a problem in this world. Too much money that people cannot spend in their lifetime. But we got to really entice those avenues and get those people channelized so that money pours in. And today, our bureaucrats, our politicians, our common people, they do not believe in that because they need money quickly today. But that money will come only with the hard work. And this is where the beginning of our smart villages ideas. Similarly, you can see here, another idea that I brought it here is this. These are some examples only. And as Mr. Talukdar says, in Australia today, in America today, in Europe today, if you go to anywhere in a suburban areas, these are the common state of affairs. A local school will have this field of basketball court. A local council, which is like a panchayat equivalent, will have a field like this. They are maintained by the council's money. People can come and play. So these are the points of attractions. This is what the community is. This community is all bonded together by this infrastructure. We can do that. We can do that in one smart village, one house with a smart village idea, beautiful trees, beautiful flowers, beautiful roads, beautiful playgrounds of this kind also needs to be worked together as a holistic plan so that our villages will have that bonding, have that sense of belongingness, so that anybody can come from outside. We will actually look after them from the bottom of our heart. We show them the beauty, we give them good food, we have our homestay, for example, and we give them the best time that they wanted to have. And that is the reason why the backpackers will come from anywhere in the world, bringing millions of dollars as a tourist bucks to spend in our villages. Our villages are not the hurdles, our villages are the assets. In India, we have got millions of beautiful villages. I have been to anywhere in the world. I have not seen that many villages beautiful villages anywhere in the world that we have in India. Especially Assamese villages are even beautiful. But these villages, we should not be allowing that to replace with brick and mortar houses and sell all the beautiful lands to industrial community and do whatever you like because you are getting the money today. That is how we will be killing our ingenuity of our place. It's very important that we have that kind of holistic solution. That holistic solution only can come from the people who live in there, who understand the history, value, culture, and who understand how this place can be revived in this kind of modernizing wave or transformation process. So another example here is this one here, the cultivation, for example. If you are doing the cultivation, do it properly, do it nicely, so people can come and see. And again, these are the pictures I have taken from the internet somewhere, but they are pretty much in India, not in Assam, but India. So the guava, for example, Assam is guava, Assam is the mango, Assam is this what is called pineapple. So beautiful, so beautiful. So if you do it well, you can also do on the organic farming as well. So everything is worth developing, appreciating, and showing to the rest of the world what we are good at and what we can do, what we should do. So I guess I don't want to go into too much details, but this is what you can see my blueprint is. And this blueprint I have shared with Mr. Ronghan, and based on that, basically, he has developed that in a local chapter, and he is very much interested to work with me. And I said, look, in a good time, I will come over. I will be mentor. I will be sitting with you for 7 days. I will motivate the people. I'll go with those people to the village. I will work on the master plan of those villages by those people. So that's the whole idea. But today, unfortunately, because Mr. Ronghan was so excited, he started this workshop immediately, but during the pandemic period. And because of the pandemic period here, we are now meeting virtually, which is not allowing us to do anything that we had thought. I think you have to unmute your mute your mic. Some noise is coming.
Participants are requested to please keep muted.
Yeah, keep your mics mute so that we can talk. Okay, now you see, because this particular workshop is happening, I appreciate the energy that Mr. Ronghan has brought to this platform, bringing so many people, and especially people like Mr. Talukdar and all the distinguished speakers over next 7 days. Is fantastic lineup, and I think I can see my 3.5 years of dealing with government of Assam, 3.5 years of dealing with very many other government officials in my project. I could not see any reason how we can go and develop something. It is impossible because people do not have the mindset. But today I can see at the end of that project with this initiative that it is possible to do something because people are here with some great interest. And this group of people, you stay together, you work together as a single voice, and we will make sure that we will very soon show to the world that we are capable of developing our villages the way it is. We don't have to change our, the character of the village. Assamese villages characters are very important to preserve. And with that preservation, if you can develop something, as I mentioned, we will be the champions, and this 21st century will be ours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for wonderful and motivating, and letting the participants as well as chief guest, chief speaker, a resource person of a day also, that what the vision you are sharing and how do we wanted to carry forward the smart village concept and also to empower our villages. Thank you so much. So, sir, I was seeing around, scanning around the chat. I can see that they are appreciating, all were saying that it's very inspirational. Thank you so much. So, especially the technical session was very, very good. So, but I would like to throw 1 or 2 questions because we had been, skipped at that time, at the time of moment. So, sir, it's for Mr. Talukdar. This question is, I think it's almost like partially answered. All the villages are not cannot get CRS funding. Many panchayat through highly developed like town and city are still treated and booked as village panchayat. Why not we convert town panchayat? So probably I think Mr. Nagarajan wanted to ask this question, sir. If you can read from there. Or should why not we are converting all this town panchayat, all the cities and town many. So this is the question, sir. It's alone. Am I audible, sir? Hello.
You are audible. I'm not sure. Are you asking Mr. Talukdar?
Yeah, yes, sir. That question was there, sir. Yes.
Okay.
So because
Mr. Talukdar, question to you.
No, Ronghan, it is question for me, I think, or Mr. Doloi.
It was not clear for whom it was that.
No, I had partially answered this question to Mr. Nagarajan already. By the way, Mr. Doloi, I experienced, deeply inspired by your speech. I take the opportunity to say many thanks. I am writing a private mail to you also. So be in touch, at least through email. We can do something because I am basically a man on the ground. And you and the man of the academic thing, if technology and the ground can come together, many things can be done, bypassing even the conventional system, which I always think is possible.
Sir, I think we will definitely connect you all the people. And again, Mr. Ronghan, you have got all these people's connection. You have to facilitate that. And then, yes, Mr. Talukdar, I'll also send you an email with my other ideas as well. So let's work together. And I think these are, I can see all the people who are actually coming to this forum. They are very interested, and good thing is that they are from different part of Assam, part of India, perhaps. And if we can start our common goal, and share our visions and missions, I'm sure that people will bring their own thinking hats and work on their way out. So that is what we need. We need the good leaders. very unfortunately, we do not have that many motivational people wanted to really work in our society. So every now and then, as you see that Assam flood, when it comes, only people know when their shelter is basically taken away. But the people who are in the giving end, from center all the way in the supply chain, they feel good about having flood around. So it's a very sad affairs all the time every year. So we need to really work with the people to make sure that they understand, their problems are shared, and we have got the solutions with them. And most of the time, people are resilient. People are sustainable. People do understand their own problems and own solutions, but we do not appreciate that. We do not let them develop whatever their idea is. So it is very important that the leaders work together with those people and then develop the capacity at the bottom, from the bottom up. So that's great. We'll be in touch with Mr. Talukdar and other people as well.
That's
Sir,
very good. That's very
sir,
good.
can I intervene,
Dr.
sir,
Dole-
please?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yes.
Sir,
Please
I am
introduce
Nagarajan,
yourself.
sir. Sir, I am Nagarajan from Tamil Nadu, sir. Hello?
Yes, you are audible. You are audible. Please
Sir,
ask a
I
question.
asked the question because some villages are fully developed, but again and again, governments and others are giving allocations for them. Why not we divert to the originally backward classes, backward villages?
Yeah, I think Mr. Nagarajan, this is a very right kind of comment that you have made. Depending on actually which village you take, which villagers you take on board, that depends on the need of the hour and also the interest of the people. As Mr. Talukdar mentioned before, that he talked about 6 or 7 villages, right? And he has found different problems. When he went to Numaligarh, for example, from the other side of Assam, so he found a different problem. Some villages are highly rich, some villages are not motivational, some villages are highly motivational, and some villages have got other influence as well, the external influence, like people with vested interest. So you got to really work with the people who are available at your with you, and who are interested in developing. So I'm sure that every single idea cannot be pursued in every single villages. So it is more about finding the opportunity and slowly developing those model houses, model villages, and that one can actually learn from the other. So for example, I came from Jorhat. I'm from Jorhat, a place in Jorhat in Assam. And my village, I was born in a village. My village is about 5 kilometers away from the Jorhat city. And when I was, there 30 years back, my village was, just a simple village, not enough roads, and electricity was not quite well connected. And then roads were muddy. But today, if I go back to that village is no more village. It's like almost like a suburban area, very much like a semi-urban area. So the villages are transforming as well very quickly. So, but then if I wanted to talk and go back to that village where I was born, my fellow villagers are not going to even listen to me. They say that if you have money, bring it and we'll see what we can do. But we are not here to, plant the trees on the side. They are not interested because the villages have completely gone and transformed in a quite different way. But then if I go to Majuli, which is our island town, in River Brahmaputra, the people are still very interested with the ideas, and if you want them to work on something, they will still follow you, and then they are very happy to work with you. That is my experience. What do you think, Mr. Talukdar?
Absolutely. I'm so thrilled to listen to all of you these things, and wish I could have met you a couple of years earlier. It would have been far more easier for me to bring in technology from. Can you listen to me?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Yeah, audible. Yeah.
My video is off, I believe.
No.
Your video is on.
Yeah.
All good.
Both.
We can see you.
The thing is that I wish I could have met you earlier. So anyway, it's fantastic once again, and I have my world is not limited to this. My world is more into writings and more into my television journalism. So wish I can do more on that. And if I do something in the next couple of probably in 2021, I definitely would like to get you in, especially as far as the technology is concerned, because you have to work with kind of technology to bring in more sophistication. But my biggest concern is that not the fun, is a sense of ownership.
Yeah.
once I can achieve that funding, legislative funding or the government funding, CSR funding, private funding, generation, there are many models. The whole thing can be successful only with the sense of ownership. This sense of ownership thing, not only smart village, in everywhere. If you own it, you will win. If you don't own it, any amount of money will not make you to win. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Thanks a lot.
I think absolutely correct, Mr. Talukdar. And that is the reason why I was trying to work on an alternative model for the government in terms of the capital projects. You see, all the villages roads are all being paved. They are all now at a rapid speed. The villages roads are all modernized. But thing is that there are massive capital projects doing it very well by states and the center. But question here is that after 5, 6, 10 years times, if you go back to a particular village, it is a good thing that first time from the muddy road, it becomes a paved road. But after 5 years or 6 years, you cannot even go to that road ever again. The reason is that the road is broken at a very different level, and there is no any maintenance at all. So that means that's the problem in India. Generally, India has got that issue, but the maintenance regime has never been understood by India today. So same thing happens in Assam as well. Just think about Assam and Guwahati even. All the vendors that you can see in the cities, all the buildings, all the shops, and all the other public places, they are all in a dilapidated condition. They have been built with the right sort of resources in first place, but over the time that lack of maintenance has actually given them a very bad look. By having not maintained those properties well, they did not retain the values. They have retained the value in the land, but the property itself has completely gone into rundown. So that is what happening in the roads as well. So what I was trying to tell the government is this, that only you do a road as a capital project when the villagers, the beneficiaries of that road is willing to take the ownership of that road. That road has to be owned by the community, and then they have to maintain it. And the maintenance fund every year, if it is coming from the center or state or the district, you have to make a committee, local committee, responsible to hold that amount, whatever the maintenance amount is, but they are the one responsible for maintaining the roads over a long period of time. And you see, if you build the infrastructure and if you do not maintain it, it's no good. After sometimes it will be gone down to the drain. And that is what happening in India, not only in the road infrastructure, but also the housing infrastructure. But housing infrastructure is such an important piece of infrastructure that has to not only retain value, but grow value over time. If the housing industry and the houses grow value, that is the benefit to the state government as well, all the governments as well. Today, for example, in Guwahati, if every single shop and building is retaining its value and growing its value, government can actually charge the capital grown tax or whatever way, and that is the indirect additional revenue that government can generate. But our government is also not even aware about how to maintain those properties well and how to grow value so that they can actually get their chunk of their tax as well. There is no such thing. But in this Western world, as you can see, there's a capitalist idea that they will first allow you to build the property. Once you build the property, then you have to maintain it, and then they will charge you the tax because you are maintaining the property well. Your property is growing over time in value, and that value is worth giving tax to the government. So there's a that kind of complete looping system here, and that is how basically the whole system works well. But I think that ownership that Mr. Talukdar mentioned is a very important concept, and whether this is a public project or private project at this point in time, that ownership is significantly lacking in our Indian context, especially in Assam. So people do not even think of how to own over a long period of time and maintaining it. But they are very good at maintaining their own house, though, their own building, own car. They will maintain it. But when it comes to the public, they don't care about it. So that is the mindset that we have to change.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much, sir. I can see in the chat that people are looking forward for our association. I'll scan them and accordingly I'll reply to them also. So they have also an offer from Nagarajan also that they are good in the digital management. So all can come together. So this was a wonderful session. This we was fixed for 1 hour, but it's got more than around 2. It's going to be around more than 2 hours. So we didn't know that our time moves. So it was very interesting. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining and giving your thought, blessing to all the people. And I'm 100% sure that those participants who are there, we are having around 110 at the beginning, but now it will come down. But those people will be motivated and they are ready to take charge of the smart village concept and also the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, which the HRD ministry is planning. So we can together work. And also, sir, we are very much blessed with the content you have shared today, and looking forward in a future collaboration would continue. And Professor Doloi, don't worry, Vineshwar Brahmo Engineering College will do your sense of full-fledged program for construction management. You will take care of that. So as long as I'm here and my people are there, so we'll do that, sir. No, nevertheless, that is not.
Yeah.
I don't
So
know
it's all good. Guys, you know what you do, you carry on, because I can see a complete program here with 7 days,
Yes.
a fantastic group of people lined up. You carry on, and I will only come on my nominated session on the
Right,
14th. Sorry, not on the 14th, on the 17th, right? And then on the very last session as well, because I'm very busy with my other things. But I will definitely, I'm keeping an eye every now and then. I'll join you to listen to the people that they are talking. But I will be just right behind you to support you all the way. And as I said, everybody in this particular forum, that I promise that in a good time when everything is normal, we will have these workshops hands-on for some of the villages around the Vineshwar Brahmo Engineering College. So Mr. Ronghan has mentioned that there are some villages around that. So I like to test these ideas with those villages to start with. We'll bring the villagers, we'll bring the local bankers, we'll bring everybody. I'll be there 7 days with you, and I will run them through. So idea here is that we will get the ideas, we'll get everybody involved, we'll develop the scientific planning, scientific plans for those to be executed on site, and we work it out basically everything, funding requirements, controlling mechanism, maintenance and operations. We'll see as much, we will do as much as we can. But the blueprint that we are looking at developing will definitely happen in the project specific context. And we will also get the advice from Mr. Talukdar and people like that, so that we can really, go in a long way. So this is the beginning only, but I really appreciate everybody with your interest in this particular, venture that we are exploring.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So thank you so much. So the last note, would Mr. Talukdar want to add something before we close?
No, thank you, sir. Thank you. Being a journalist, I have to rush out because you must be aware that the new political party just got birth
Yes,
with
sir.
Nasruddin AJYCP. So I'm actually working on all sides.
All right,
Yes, sir.
okay.
I can
So
see, sir.
please don't
Okay,
mind.
sir.
There is
No,
too
no,
much of things are happening today in Assam. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, sir. Thank
Okay,
you so
thank
much,
you.
sir. Bye-bye,
Thank you,
sir.
Mr. Talukdar. I'll be in touch with
Thank
you.
you, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So all the participants are requested to please